Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Should we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Where we'll be relaxing as per usual. I'm sort of trying to build up my backlog a little bit again of videos because I don't have one whatsoever. And as promised, I've got a bit more energy today, so we can talk a little bit about the game we made for someone's birthday, where I'm not sure what I'm going to title this episode, but we'll get into that. Hello there, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 5:52 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th, 2024. It was honestly, in summary, it was a very cool experience. It's for someone's birthday. We basically made a parody Pokemon game using our friend circle. And to give you context, I suppose, is that there's a small group of us where for each of our birthdays we will do silly, fun little projects. Normally the projects are not particularly big. There have been big ones in the past. I think I talked about it before. We made an entire manga, which was still by far and away probably the most effort I put into, most hours I put into one, which is crazy compared to how many hours I put into this one. But this one is much more sort of distributed over the people who were contributing rather than just me doing as much of it. But yeah, so we have these little things where we try and do a different media format each time to essentially give a gift. Because originally it started out as these song parodies, and then we moved on from songs to do other stuff, and it's just silly basically. It's meant to be light-hearted. It's not meant to be something which takes a huge amount of effort. It used to take where there's a peak in the middle where it's the amount of effort was very disproportionate, and then it started going down again, and now it's much more sort of something that maybe we could knock out in a day is kind of the idea behind it. But this one, last year, it was a friend's birthday, and one of my other friends who is part of this group where we do these little things was hey, what if we made a video game for him? And me, I've never created a video game, but actually no, it's not that's a lie. I have created some small games. Obviously I know how much goes into a game, and obviously my friend does as well. He's not, anyway, he just doesn't have that necessary experience, I suppose, for it. And I was okay, I think we don't have enough time to do that this year, but let's put a pin in that and let's remember that next year and we can look into it. So next year rolls around, and of course, remembering that, we're okay, let's try and actually make this happen. So I was okay, this certainly feels like it could be a bigger one than usual. But my initial conception for it was I will use basically what they do to make these sort of ROM hacks for Pokemon. They use RPG Maker, and they use a pack called Pokemon Essentials. And I was okay, what I will do is I will just basically use whatever materials is in this. I will make up a very simple sort of hub world and that sort of thing, and the focus will just be on these gym battles, which you can do against each other people. And I think it would be fun to ask all of our friends basically what Pokemon teams they want. I'll give them each a type based on this old discussion we had years ago or something, just to make it easier, because trying to coordinate 18 people is insanely difficult. I don't especially because obviously not everyone's going to have the same level of investment in this, so that's why I'm just let's make it as easy as possible. I'm just giving them a type, you give me 6 Pokemon, that's it. But I was I know some of my friends will probably want to do a little bit here and there for them, and I was okay, I'm not going to deprive them of that. It's a fun activity, and who am I to stop creative freedom or anything like that? So of course comes around, I set up a little spreadsheet where I'm just gonna get everyone's team together. I tell all the other friends, okay, this is what's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna basically go around asking people what they want to do. And then basically as I asked around, some people were just hey, if you want me to do anything, I can. And I was okay, well, I'll leave it up to you basically, how much you want to do, and it'll be proportionate to what you want done. Essentially it will be how much we can do. Essentially, I don't want it to be I don't want you to feel pressured to being we have to get X amount done. I want it to make sure that it's something that comes from your own motivation, because while definitely the more efficient thing, the better thing for work, to be okay, this is exactly what we need done, this is what we need to do. At the end of the day, this is a completely voluntary, optional thing. I don't want, but the biggest motivator for it is not going to be the diligence, because they're not getting paid for it. It's for their own desires and motivation, right? So at least my thinking was, if I go into it just being okay, you do this, do this, do this, do this, it's exactly what we need to get done, and manage it like it's a work project or something, it's going to really damper the enthusiasm for it. It's going to, not be a fun project anymore. It's just going to be, more work. So I was like, you can determine how much you want to contribute to everything. I'm going to move this far because I don't think it needs to be here, to be honest. So like one of my friends, they were like, okay, I'm gonna make my own like art sprites and art assets of gym, and I was like, cool, that sounds great. And another friend was like, can I design some gym levels? And I was like, absolutely, go for it. And then like another friend, he also wanted to do the same. I was like, sure, go for it. And I was like, okay, now we've got a little squad. I guess it's good to let's make a group chat and get everyone together. Just be like, hey, these are things which I think are possible. Because again, my original scope of a game is something that I released actually, very early on, which is basically just like a very simple thing. It's a very simple like copy paste, like everyone gets their own gym room. It's all connected together in this one hub world. You go in, you can have a battle, leave, done. And then if I were the only one to be working on it, I think what I would do is I would change the in-game battle sprites, and I'd put like people's custom dialogue in, and that's probably as far as it would go customization wise. It's a lot of work for one person, so I'm like, I was not going to do like all these custom tile sets or anything, or custom gym layouts. It's just going to be a room. I'll probably put some props in, is maybe as far as I'll go. Because a real difficulty with a lot of these projects is the fact that, at least the group I'm with, is like it's all the skills related to these creative industries are concentrated on me as a person. Like, I'm the artist of this small friend group, not small friend, this birthday project circle, and I'm the one who does the video editing. I'm the one who can do the music stuff, which makes it difficult if we do anything related to that. Which is why a lot of these like gifts we're doing sort of like branch out from there to do other stuff instead, and it's why it's honestly better for it that way, because otherwise it's just sort of like me fulfilling the own projects that I want to do, except for I'm using the veneer of someone else's birthday to really fulfill that, which is not really fair, because that's kind of like inherently a selfish desire, Anyway, so we get to like doing stuff together, and then like my friend makes a mock-up of a level, and I'm like, whoa, this is like much more than I expected. Like I didn't expect you to go this hard, but if you're comfortable with doing this, yeah, absolutely. And then two of them just like got started on doing like level designs for each of the things, and then the other friend, they did like sort of props and things to go put in place, and I was like, okay, this is becoming a lot grander than I expected it to be, perhaps. I was like, how am I going to contribute? Well, I'll contribute by coordinating, collecting information, I suppose, from these 18 different people, and also drawing these like battle sprites for the in-game battle, and I did a decent amount of the overworld sprites as well, because I was like, that's something that I can probably do relatively quickly. And if anything, the project very much sort of spiraled out a lot. Crazy, so almost. Sorry about that little bit of a pause. What was I talking about? I don't remember exactly. Something about the project getting away from me? No. Getting away is the wrong word. It very much sort of inflated in scale of what was expected. Something that was honestly meant to be quite humble. The building honestly turned into essentially a fan project with four of us working together on it. It was genuinely crazy, and a very interesting experience, I think. Because obviously I had a lot of sort of control over it in the first place. I kind of had like the final say of like, this goes, this is okay, don't do that, do this, etc, etc. Which, I don't know, it's, as I said before, it's a bit of a weird experience when doing it with your friends, because it's sort of like, I don't want to overstep any boundaries in that sense, but this is all voluntary and signed up for, rather than something which is necessarily we all agreed on. Okay, I mean, we did agree on it, to be fair, beforehand, but it's more like I don't want to crush a flame of inspiration just by pure fact of me overwriting something which they were interested in seeing, because I'm sure there's this sort of underlying feeling of, she was the one who came up with this idea and project, she has final say, which to an extent is true, but also to an extent it's unfair at the same time, right? Is that something which is as explicitly said when we started contribute? Probably maybe not as clear as it had to be, or as it should have been. But anyway, the long and short of it is actually ended up being like quite successful in the end. We ended up giving to him. There was only one bug, which was a bit of a shame, certainly, to run into bug, but honestly incredible that we only ran into one the entire time. One like actually which stopped progress. Honestly, the craziest part about it was how difficult it ended up being, because as it turns out, someone I didn't check, but Pokemon Essentials, if you don't assign IVs and EVs by default, it essentially maxes them out as default. Well, I thought by default would be 0, and the way that I ended up populating the party in the game meant that everyone in your party was on 0. So it was like, oh, okay, I did not know this. This explains why when I was trying to defeat the bosses, it was so difficult. Because you are basically on like 80% stats compared to the enemy. Amazingly, my friend did manage to get through it through some very interesting strategic play. He even put his own self-decided handicap on, where every single time he beat a gym trainer, he was going to basically drop the MVP Pokemon. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, this was clearly like, it's barely even balanced in the first place. It was definitely not balanced for you to do this. Because it was a very last minute decision for me to actually add a load of Pokemon in. Because it was from playtesting, I was like, this is actually impossibly difficult. Playtesting just with the default that I originally had. So it was like super last minute. Just before it goes live, it's like, okay, put a load more people in there to try and make it a bit more balanced. Yeah, I'm glad he managed to get through it in the end. Amazingly, he actually did it all in one evening. It's like, what, from 7 to midnight, so about 5 hours or so of gameplay. Which definitely didn't need to be as long as it is, but he had a good time. Like, most of it was the fact that he was honestly shocked that we actually managed to do it. Because he did predict, from the things I said beforehand, like what he had to get ready. It was like, maybe it's a game. But he was like, I don't think that's possible. But it's like, I guess it kind of is. It's kind of because I really felt like I talked about most of the things I wanted to talk about the day before. And I don't really have many more stories of what happened. Am I going to do something like that again? Maybe. I don't know. It is a lot of effort, to be perfectly honest. And while I'm fascinated by game design and the choices that go into it, I'm not sure how infused I am by actually sort of making a game. Because if I want to do it, I want to do it exactly in the vision I want, right? That kind of goes with most things you create. You kind of want to create your vision. And creating someone else's vision feels a bit, I don't know. It's not like bad, but I didn't mean to hold this. Not bad per se, but it definitely... Is it for me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have that same sort of level of enthusiasm, which is honestly a bit of a shame. But certainly not for a while, at least. I want to do my own individual things. Again, for a little bit. Take some time, regenerate, recoup. Hold on. This needs to have another one here? Yes. We are really getting way too many Lily of the Valleys. Like, I don't know what we're going to do when we fill this all up. But honestly, it was a very cool collaborative experience. And definitely I learned a lot from it. And honestly, we did it very quickly as well. Because like I had started working on it, I can't remember exactly when. And we'll have a Discord channel so I can see exactly. 16th of November is when I first messaged about it. So that was about 2.5 weeks beforehand. And then I released the first sort of prototype on the day after. Wow, okay, that was surprisingly quick. But again, my prototype was very sort of bare bones. It was just like, let's get all these teams in, etc, etc, and we'll see what happens from it. But then the actual asset creation, 24th November, was when we finished all the battle sprites. So I locked in on 21st of November, so about 2 weeks-ish, right? 28, yeah, about 2 weeks. It was a very fast turnaround. Or just like a random game, to be honest. And definitely like the longer, bigger parts were parts I didn't have to do, like actually manually creating all these levels and the scripting. But again, I must reiterate, like, I felt really bad afterwards. My friends were basically spending so much time on it, but I must reiterate, I did not intend for it to be such a huge contribution that we ended up doing. It was always meant to be like relatively like low in scope, because like my friend initially asked, and I was like, okay, you can make levels, but you know, keep it within scope, keep it reasonable. You know, I've done a lot of these before. It not necessarily game projects, but like these big collaborative projects, and it takes a lot out of you. It's very easy to sort of get swept up in the scope and be like, oh yeah, we can do this and this and this, when it's like, asterisk, hold on, we need to do this 18 times. Be careful with how much you want to do. It's a thing which you can only really experience, I suppose, by doing it, or being like, this is definitely too much or something. But if they're confused by it, I'm not going to stop them. Because my friend initially asked, like, can I put puzzles in and start with gyms? I was like, I'm just going to say flat out that you should not. You should just make the levels, and then if we have time afterwards, put the puzzles. But then they did a cutscene for every single person, and I was like, okay, fair enough, if you wanted to. So I am it's both like I'm thankful for it, but also like, please, like, I hope you are comfortable with doing this at the same time, because it really is quite a lot. A lot of them like stayed up quite late, or like woke up very early to like work on it, and I'm just like, this is not, obviously if you want to do that, that's more power to you, but it's also not what I intended for you to completely change your life and schedule around this. But I can't disagree that the final product is not very, very cool and awesome, right? It looks honestly very polished, and I'm happy for it. Even it's because at the end of the day, it's only something which people probably engage with once, which is a bit of a shame, but also at the same time, it's like, what do you expect? It's as long as you get the stuff out of it from the creation process, rather than the actual reward of seeing someone go through it. Not so that you can't get some reward from seeing someone go through it, but it's very much, you have to, I suppose, keep your own mindset when it comes to it. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a pretty cool, fun little time, fun little jaunt. I don't know what to say to it. I'm very thankful Pokemon Essentials even exists in the first place, which made it even remotely possible. Otherwise it would have been quite the difficulty to be able to get everything in. Like, I'm not programming in an engine from scratch or anything. And it's this existing framework made it even possible to interact with. But yes, probably not going to do something like that again for a while. But I'm glad we did. And on that note, I guess I'll round this episode up here. I don't really have much else to say. I thought I'd have more to talk about, but I really don't in regards to it. Because I feel like all the technical stuff I already spoke about, and that was after the hype of it happening. Now it's been a few days, things have calmed down a bit. It's sort of just like, okay, it's like a retrospective anything. So I guess technically, we're all game devs now. In the smallest sense of a word, but any start is a start, isn't it? Anyway, on that note, I'm going to have this episode here, so if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been here, darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.